everybody? It's JetsCentral coming back with another video, and obviously the season has not gone as we'd hoped for as fans. We went big game hunting in the offseason. Le'Veon Bell, Crowder, Mosley, a couple other guys, Brian Poole, Ryan Khalil, and whatnot. But so far, the season has been an absolute nightmare. It's just something that you just kind of want to forget about. I mean, the coaching staff, Adam Gase, it's been a complete dumpster fire hire. You can make the argument Sam Darnold has regressed. The offensive line has not done anything this season. What's going on with Kelechi Osemele? We got a handful of players that just aren't even trying anymore. It's bad. Okay, there's a lot of negativity surrounding this team. Not to mention that we are 1-5 through we're getting to the midway point of the season here. So begs the question: should the New York Jets be sellers at the trade deadline? Okay, it's pretty safe to say that we should not be buyers, trading away a first round pick, trading away a second, third round picks for, proven players, kind of like what we saw with the Patriots acquiring Mohamed Sanu, the 49ers acquiring Emmanuel Sanders, a couple other teams, Ravens, Peters, Rams with Ramsey. I don't think we should be buyers. That's pretty obvious. The Jets are in right now no position to be trading away future assets, aka draft picks, for guys that are currently disgruntled with their current teams, or just possibly guys that could be on the move because their team is losing. I don't think the Jets should be buyers, but should we be sellers? Should we be sellers? Especially you look around the NFC. There's a lot of teams that could be sneaky, that are really good in the NFC. I mean, you have the 49ers, the Rams, the Seahawks. Bears could be interested. Vikings, Green Bay Packers. Think about that for just a second. Carolina Panthers, New Orleans Saints. There's a lot of good teams. Dallas Cowboys, Philadelphia Eagles. There's a lot of teams in the NFC that can possibly make the playoffs. I don't think Arizona's going to do it, but they're on a 3-game winning streak. So bottom line is, all those teams I just mentioned could be in the running to try to add some talent to their teams. A lot of those teams, they're making second round, third round, fourth round picks expendable to try to get guys in the building. We just saw it the other day. Who was it? Diggs from Detroit just got traded to the Seattle Seahawks for a late round pick. So these teams, especially in the NFC, are calling. They're making phone calls, and they're trying to see what's up with some of the younger talented players around the league. So you take a look at the New York Jets roster. What do we actually have to offer? Do we have anything to offer? Surprisingly, we do. Now, of course, we do have some of these guys on the team that are just currently, yes, you want to part ways with them. Guys like Tremaine Johnson, it's just an abomination at this point. He's being benched. We're paying him way too much money. It looks like he just quit. So, yes, we do want to get rid of this guy, but realistically speaking, it's not possible. Nobody's taking on that contract. Absolutely nobody. Even if somebody were to offer a 7th round pick, the team the Jets will be winning that trade at this point. That's how bad it is. So we have guys on this team that, it's just that, we do want to part ways with, but it's just unrealistic. So came up with 3 names that possibly could be on the move, possibly could, we could flip and get a pick back in return. Not necessarily saying I'm agreeing with all these, these 3 guys being completely moved, but all 3 of these guys could possibly make an impact for their respective team that they would be, obviously traded to in whatever scenario it would be. So first order of business, let's talk about Leonard Williams. Leonard Williams is a guy who coming out of USC was the number 1 rated guy by, Mel Kiper, the Todd McShays of the world, all these different guys, Mike Mayox and stuff. The number 1 player in the draft, over Mariota, over Dante Fowler, over Jameis Winston, all those guys, Cooper, Brandon Scherf, kind of the guys that were rumored to go in the top 10 and that did go in the top 10 back in 2015. The Jets landed him at 6. He has been a complete disappointment up until this point. We took him under the assumption that he was the best player in the draft. We didn't really need him at the time, kind of running the 3-4 system. We already had enough bodies in there under Todd Bowles coming in, Mike McCagnon. I can understand the overall mindset of taking a guy, we're sitting there at spot number 6 and we're getting the number 1 player in the draft. That's incredible value, but he just simply hasn't lived up to the hype. He hasn't been able to get after the passer. He's been a decent run stopper, but the pursuit has been questionable. There's been a lot of questionable things as far as effort goes with Leonard Williams, especially last season. It just kind of seems like he has a really high floor, and that's kind of it. His ceiling is really low, which is ironic because that was, him having the high ceiling coming out of USC was kind of his biggest trait. Everybody was saying he was going to be the next Richard Seymour and whatnot. But he hasn't really rushed the passer well. Granted, he hasn't really been in a position to have a ton of success doing that. We're not lining him up as, an edge rusher here. He is getting he has gotten double teamed a lot throughout his career, but bottom line is this: he's underperformed. He's still a young player with some talent. He could still help out on a team like, like the Oakland Raiders, like the Philadelphia Eagles. One of these teams that could be in the market for, run-stopping defensive tackle. Now, quite frankly, I don't want the Jets to re-sign this guy. I really don't. It's not going to be worth the money. Because he was the 6th overall pick, he's already being paid a ton this season. I think it's around $12 to $14 million, somewhere in that range. That's definitely not worth it. He had a great game against the Patriots on Monday night. But look, when you're sitting there as a Jet fan saying, hey, look, and that's great. Leonard Williams is out there, he was doing his thing against the Patriots offensive line and whatnot last Monday. But when the only thing you could kind of hang your hat on as a Jet fan is he played good one game out of the season so far, and you can't really remember anything he did last season or the season before that or the season before that, it's time to move on. If I'm the New York Jets, I'm picking up the phone. I am making calls. What can we get for this guy? What can we get for him? I think Phillips has played well, out of Tennessee. He's been getting some snaps on the defensive line. We just picked Quinnen Williams. We just re-signed Steve McClendon. Mike McCagnon re-signed Henry Anderson last season. That's looking like an absolute bad contract to begin with, but I digress. The point is that if I'm the Jets, I'm calling about Leonard Williams. I'm seeing if I could get a second round pick. That's highly unlikely in my opinion, because if you trade for Leonard Williams, you probably have to kind of go into the trade with the intent of re-signing this guy, and you also have to pay him the remaining money on his contract this season, which is quite high. So you kind of have to flip him to a team with a solid coaching staff, a team that could develop him. That's why I'm looking at, Philly. I'm looking at the Raiders, possibly the Colts, but the Colts really don't do business like that. If I'm asking, I'm saying on the high end second round pick, I highly doubt it. Realistically, I could see a bottom third, a fourth, possibly a 5th round pick for Leonard Williams, but I think really that 3rd round to 4th round pick is the true value of Leonard. I don't think anybody's calling and offering up a 2nd round pick for Williams. I really don't. I don't think he's that big of a necessity. So moving on, we got Robbie Anderson, wide receiver, undrafted out of Temple, one of my favorite players on the team, the Sun God. This guy is out here doing his best for the team, putting his best foot forward, really has done well as far as developing into kind of a deep threat wide receiver. This guy was undrafted. At one point, his football career was in jeopardy, and possibly never had a chance to play NFL football, but he signs with the New York Jets and makes the most of his opportunity. That was one of the bright spots of Mike McCagnon's tenure with the team. I love me some Robbie Anderson. He could stretch the field. He could take the top, meaning the safeties, really take the top off the defense, just pulling the safeties out. You have to be accountable for him if you're a defensive coordinator. He does have some weak spots. He is kind of on the thinner, he does have that thinner frame, but he can still make it work. He doesn't have the best separation skills in the world, talking about horizontally. You're not really going to see him making those Odell Beckham-style catches and getting the separation that Beckham does on his slants and whatnot, but Beckham's a top 6, top 7, top 8 wide receiver. Nobody's really saying that about Robbie. What he is a guy like Deshaun Jackson, like a John Brown, like one of these guys that can just take the top off of defenses, can beat you vertically, and really just put safeties and cornerbacks on their toes. You have to respect the deep ball game. But Darnold's strength is not in the deep ball. Adam Gase's offense doesn't like to call plays that throw the deep ball. It just is what it is. Teams were calling last season about Robbie Anderson. Now that I think about it, I think we were close to actually dealing him to Philly, but I think the asking price was a little too low. It wasn't necessarily a low ball, but the point is that their team's interested in Robbie Anderson. Coaching staffs around the league, front offices around the league understand and know that Robbie Anderson's a talent in this league, and he could possibly be dealt, at the trade deadline this season. If I'm the Jets right now and I'm looking kind of at the landscape of, what was, what the Broncos got in return for Sanders, what the Patriots got in return from Mohamed Sanu, I would say a fair value, okay, not from a Jets fan's perspective. What's fair for the Jets, what's fair for the opposing team is a third-round pick. I would love a second-round pick. That would be unbelievable. I would probably attempt to do a backflip and break my neck, but a third-round pick is realistic. I think a second-round pick, the Jets would just be walking away. Absolute steal, a second-round pick for Robbie. But I will say this, too. At some point, Joe Douglas is going to have to make a decision on Robbie Anderson. I mean, are we going to sign this guy long-term, or if we're not going to do that, trade him? Let's not do this BS that the Giants did with Landon Collins, where it's like 1 foot in, 1 foot out the door. Oh, I don't know what to do. I have no idea. Is he going to be a good player long-term? I don't know. Is he going to fit the system? Figure it out. Understand your team. What are you going to do with the coaching staff? If you're going to decide to keep Gase, which will be a mistake, but if that's the plan moving forward, and you would rather have a draft pick, a second-round pick, a third-round pick, whatever, then trade him. If you don't have plans to re-sign him, trade him. At this point, I kind of feel bad for Robbie Anderson because this guy's an electrifying talent. He's so young, hasn't hit his ceiling yet, hasn't fulfilled his potential, and it's not necessarily on him. I want to see him in a vertical downfield passing attack. I think Philly would actually be great for him. I really want to see Robbie succeed. Also, I think the Saints, because I think, even though I feel like the Saints at this point don't really have any draft picks left, but I feel like he could be a nice replacement for Ted Ginn. He could come in and just do Ted Ginn's job extremely, not only his job, but better. So keep an eye on the Saints, but who knows at this point. So bottom line is this. Robbie Anderson, if we're not going to trade him, I expect Robbie to sign a long-term deal. That's what I want. Because why keep him, get nothing? He's going to hit the open market and a team's going to offer him, and he probably would sign with somebody else. If that's the plan, then trade him. Next guy, Marcus Maye, last guy on the list. Free safety out of Florida, second-round pick. A guy who has potential, a guy who can, hit people, a guy who can, fly around the field, make ball hawking style plays. This is a guy who I thought would have been a perfect fit for the Seattle Seahawks and the San Francisco 49ers, dating back when Maye was in the draft. I like Maye a lot. I really do. The New Jack City, his best buddy is Jamal Adams. But I feel like at this point, dealing with the injuries, I don't really think he's the best fit for that Angel defense that Greg Williams likes to run. I think if you're the Jets and you can get a third-round pick for him, you start looking around, you start listening to offers, because I love Maye. He's one of my favorite players on the team. But if you're the Jets right now and you're selling and you're trying to rebuild the team, I wouldn't be surprised if the Jets moved on from Maye. They could kind of cut their losses and say, hey, look, we love you, Marcus Maye, but it's just been the injuries so far. I'm not saying Maye's a bad player. I love him. I want the Jets to keep him, but realistically speaking here, it wouldn't surprise me if the Jets flip Marcus Maye for a third or a fourth or fifth round pick. Especially seeing Diggs go for a fifth round pick. That was absolutely unbelievable job by Seattle right there to get Quantre Diggs, solid player in this league, for just a fifth round pick. Granted, the Lions I think also got a seventh round pick or something like that too. But point is that Marcus Maye, if we could get a fourth, if we could get a fifth round pick for him, I could see the Jets possibly trading him. I mean, none of these guys are Joe Douglas's guys. Remember, like idiots, the Jets kept Mike McCagnon throughout the draft, knowing that they're going to fire him. Let him go throughout the draft process, override Adam Gase, override Greg Williams, pick his guys, then we fire him after the draft. End up cutting Ja'Kai Polite, third round pick, so that was just a complete waste. Complete mismanagement, complete dysfunction at its finest from this Jets team. And, you see me upset in these recap videos and stuff like that after losing games and stuff. But one of the things that really kind of irritates me, gets under my skin, is squandering opportunities in the draft. Year after year after year after year. I'm not saying you have to pick Pro Bowlers with every pick you have, but it comes a time. It comes a time where you have to start hitting draft picks. You have to start hitting draft picks. I can make an hour-long video of all the draft picks we picked. Draft busts we picked. Jason Morrow, Christian Hackenberg, Devin Smith, Stephen Hill, Darren Lee. Leonard Williams hasn't really been what we've hoped. Did I say Geno Smith? Even though I don't really think it's Geno's fault completely. I think it was more so the coaching staff. Who else? Chad Hansen, Ardarius Stewart, Ja'Kai Polite. I mean, Lorenzo Malden. I could go on and on and on and on. All right? Jalen Sanders, Shaq Abbott, all these guys. How do you expect to build a team when you pick players and it's just a revolving door? It's just third round picks and second round picks. It really, I understand that the Jets have not been that good of a team over the past couple seasons. I understand that completely. But when you really get down to the root of the problem, it's virtually like the Jets are going into every season with no middle or late round picks. That's essentially what it is. We have one first round pick, and then everybody else, it's just a complete toss up. I feel like there's no rhyme or reason. There's absolutely no method to the madness when it comes to the New York Jets draft room. We have no idea what we are doing. Well, Mike McCagnon had no idea what he was doing. John Idzik had no clue what he was doing. Completely squandered opportunities year after year after year after year, round after round after round. Joe Douglas, I pray that this guy can develop talent, find talent late in the draft, and really it's not hard. I know it comes across as, who is this random kid making videos about the team. Obviously it's hard because there's people in high positions and they can't do this job, but there's a line where we just cannot keep just blowing second round picks and third round picks. And I feel like the more we accumulate those picks, the less of a chance, or the more of a chance we have to pick some solid players or to get just more bodies in the room. Is that too hard to ask? Is it really too much to ask for? So I'll leave it there. Should the Jets be sellers? I know I ranted on this video, went on way too long. So let me know your thoughts. Should the Jets be sellers? Thanks so much for watching. I apologize for the performance that we put on this season, and that we're even having this discussion as of right now. But it is what it is. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section. And as always, thank you so much for watching. Thanks so much for sticking with this channel with me throughout the season. I know it's been tough. And as always, chat up.